Hi, and welcome back to David Pattinson's Accused Friends. I want to talk to you today about a court case I came across reported in the news about an individual named Pavel Grushin, who seems to be a British guy, but by the sounds of the name has a sort of a foreign background, and he was living in London, and he was at a corporate party, and he grabbed a woman's wrist in an elevator and tried to kiss her, and was charged with common assault. When he got to the magistrates court and pleaded his case without a solicitor, the judge told him that this was such a serious offence after hearing the case that she convicted him of common assault, convicted him of attempted sexual assault, but instead of sentencing him in the magistrates court, which carries a maximum of 6 months in prison, referred him to the Crown Court for a lengthier prison sentence. She estimated to be a minimum of 2.5 years. And I think this is a sort of outrageous case for a few reasons. What I know, which some people may or may not know, is that the benefit of the magistrates court is that it has this limited punishment. The 6 months imprisonment is the maximum. The downside of the magistrates court is that you're just judged by a magistrate. You're not judged by a jury of your peers. Whereas the Crown Court is the opposite. It's a judge and jury. Well, it's a jury primarily that give you their verdict on your criminal activity or not, and then you're sentenced by the judge, and the sentence can be up to the maximum of life in prison. So it's tougher to convict you in the Crown Court, but if you are convicted, obviously, the judge has the maximum amount of leeway to sentence you. And of course, in this case, this defendant, Pavel Grushin, has got the worst of both worlds. He's got the downside of the magistrates court, which is it's easier to convict you there because you've only got to convince the magistrate. But then he's also got the downside of the Crown Court, which is sentencing. And I think it's outrageous because the judge in this case, if she realises, hey, this criminal activity seems like it's more serious than for the magistrates court, surely she refers him to the Crown Court for adjudication by a jury of his peers. But what she does is convicts him and then sends him to the Crown Court for sentencing. So I think it's totally outrageous just on that regard. But let me read you a few snippets from the article. You can maybe make your own mind up. It says, entrepreneur 27 who forced himself on woman 33 at Royal Festival Hall Christmas bash is told to expect jail after she, the accuser, faced court to tell how the attack has ruined her life. Says Pavel Grushin, 27, grabbed the woman's wrist very, very tightly in an elevator after the corporate party before trying to kiss her. The Cambridge graduate who'd started his champagne-fueled night out at a Pall Mall club before moving on to the exclusive members-only Tramps night spot near Piccadilly. However, in a powerful victim impact statement delivered in court, the victim told how the attack caused her to suffer panic attacks and anxiety. The incident also resulted in her profession and marriage being severely damaged. I think it means her employment and marriage. I can't imagine the entire profession was damaged as a result of this. Small point by me. When arrested, the entrepreneur, Grushin, boasted about his looks to police and urged officers to check out his Instagram. Talks a little bit about his Instagram. However, it says Grushin was due to be sentenced at Croydon Magistrates Court today, which is limited to 6 months in prison. But after delivering a highly charged account of how the offence destroyed her life, the case was sent to the Crown Court. District Judge Julie Cooper ruled it was a Category 1 offence due to the severe psychological harm caused, which carries a starting point of 2.5 years imprisonment. And it says also Pavel, he was convicted of 1 count of attempted sexual assault and 1 count of common assault. So he's been convicted by the magistrate. It hasn't been referred to a jury at the Crown Court. But then was bailed for sentencing at the Crown Court on a date to be determined. He was also ordered to sign the sex offenders register. Judge said, I've heard from the young women in these proceedings of the distress and psychological harm you have caused her. This was the guideline. This offence falls into as Category 1, with a starting point of 2.5 years in prison. This case clearly crosses the custodial threshold. Obviously, it crosses it, and I'm sending you to the Crown Court for sentencing. I suggest you instruct a solicitor. You will need it. She told the unrepresented first-time offender, you must anticipate receiving a custodial sentence. So a lot of interesting points. This guy's gone to court, a magistrate's court, without a lawyer, which is always a huge mistake. And I believe that a lot of judges discriminate against individuals that do this because they're not really paying money into the system. They're not paying money to support the legal profession, of which judges are beneficiaries of. And I believe they always treat people like this more harshly because they haven't got a lawyer to stop other people not having a lawyer. Unless, of course, you're a very poor person, in which case they'll give you legal aid, no problem. But if you are someone of means, or who they determine to be of means, that does not have a lawyer, then they'll throw the book at you. And I think it's totally wrong. It's injustice, and can't prove it, of course, but I've seen this happen a few times, and I believe it's kind of common practice. The other thing, which is really interesting, this guy's a first-time offender, so 27 years old, no criminal record. Doesn't seem like this is the kind of guy that's going around communities causing lots of trouble. That doesn't seem to have been taken into account. And then, of course, the other thing that I really want to talk about are these victim impact statements. And I've made the point before, these victim impact statements are always boilerplate, formulaic, and have identical language. They always say mental health, anxiety, can't work or can't go out of the house. And it's always about it's ruined their life or it's ruined their future. These victim impact statements never, ever show some sort of woman being resilient or overcoming the problem. It's never a case of, I met Pavel in the elevator and I was shaken up for about 3 hours, and then, I went home, and then the following day, I was just back to normal again. I reported it to the police as a matter of record, just so in case this guy is sort of a danger to the community. But to be honest, it didn't really affect my life in any way. And the reason you never see those is because I believe that these victim impact statements are coerced by victim liaisons within the Crown Prosecution Service. They guide strongly the accuser to say, this is what we want you to say. We want you to say your mental health was damaged. We want you to say you had anxiety. We want you to say your employment was adversely affected. We want you to say it ruined your life. Because if you do say that, it's an easier way for us to get a conviction, for us to get more funding, for us to get more money. And the other amazing thing about these victim impact statements is that the judges are always blown away by them. They always say, wow, that was such a persuasive victim impact statement. They never say, wasn't that the identical victim impact statement we heard at last week's trial? Wasn't that the identical victim impact statement we heard at the trial the week before? Wasn't that the identical victim impact statement we heard at the trial the week before that? The judges always seem to give the impression they're hearing these victim impact statements for the first time, even though they are identical every time. And I think there's a lot of criminality going on within the prosecutorial service. It's always implied that the events that are the subject to the prosecution are the criminal offence, but it's never investigated or challenged or questioned that the prosecutorial process may be undergoing more criminality than the events that the prosecution is regarding. So if you have a victim liaison that is deliberately subverting justice by guiding the accuser, is that not a criminal offence? Of course it is. If the judges are not challenging these victim impact statements, saying, why are these victim impact statements, the same every time? How is that possible? All these victims that don't know each other, they go into a room on their own, write their statement. How come they're always identical? How come they always say mental health? How come they always say anxiety? How come they always say unemployment? How come they always say it ruined my life? The reason is because the judges are part of the corrupt system. The judges are profiting from the corrupt system. And I think the journalists here have not challenged any of these things. They haven't challenged why is this guy not, why does he have the downside of a magistrates court case, but also the downside of a Crown Court sentencing? Why doesn't he get a proper Crown Court case in front of a jury. If he's so guilty, he'll definitely be convicted there. Why do they not challenge the victim impact statement, saying, why is this the same every time? Why do they not challenge the judge, who's not even questioning the fact that the victim impact statement is formulaic and it's boilerplate? So it's interesting that the media, rather than ask the tough questions to ensure justice, they are complicit in subverting justice. And I've followed these cases for a long time. They keep popping up. Would a man that had a woman grab him on the wrist in an elevator and the woman tried to kiss him, would that woman be subject to a minimum of 2.5 years in prison? I mean, I can say for certain this has sort of happened to me, but I never think that the woman should be going to prison. I would never report it to prison because, I'm a resilient person. I'm not a total and complete baby like a lot of these feminist accusers are. I'm old enough to remember the days before women were strong and independent. I was telling a guy about this in the fish and chip shop the other day, and he sort of had his eyes sort of as wide as anything, and he said, wow, if you remember the days before women were strong and independent, there must have been so many problems with gender relations back then. And I said, no, there wasn't. Before women were strong and independent, they were much tougher and resilient and far less dependent on government than they are now. So I think this strong and independent stuff is a total fraud if you have 10 seconds with Pavel grabbing you by the wrist and it ruins your whole life. So I think a lot of these people in the country need to toughen up, but of course they're not going to, because we have a system that is all about the politics of wealth transfer, and it's about profiting from grievance rather than preventing the grievance from occurring through the use of good judgment. So I hope you like this video. I hope you find this as interesting as I do. Please subscribe to the channel and we'll look forward to talking with you soon.